All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Visual with me, Mark Hansen. This time we are catching up with a past guest, Liz Miller Gershfeld. Liz was working at Energy BBDO in Chicago, and she is now self-employed. She has taken some time away from the agency. She's freelancing some, and we talk about life as a freelancer. We talk about AI a lot, which is extremely interesting. We talk about a class she's developing for photographers, which I think a lot of photographers are going to want to take, but she is limiting the number. So hopefully she's ready to do this class multiple times. We also talk about just the positives and negatives of AI. And also we talk about promos. We talk about mailers, whether you should do a mailer or not, or if it's up to you. So stay tuned to find out about that. But the AI discussion is really interesting. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So let me know what you think. Like it, thumbs up it, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that kind of stuff. And I'll be interested in hearing what you guys think about this one. I'm good. Slower this year than normal for some reason, or than last year anyway. I don't know why, but it's a little slow. But
yeah,
I
don't know. I think that our business, it's interesting because I'm seeing everything from the outside in,
yeah,
which is a very fresh perspective. And I don't know if not being at an agency, people are being more honest with me or what, but I'm hearing that from a lot of people. I mean, there's work. I've been
yeah.
freelancing here
That's
and there.
good.
Yeah, I decided that after I left my job, my intention wasn't to fill my time 100% with freelancing, but rather take a beat and figure out how I wanted to fill my time. And freelancing is a part of the mix, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not the whole thing.
So what else you been doing?
Um, all right. Well, so so I left my job in September,
Right.
and
So what was the how long did it take you to finally pull the trigger on that? Because I'm assuming it
yeah,
wasn't you just woke up one morning and said, I'm gonna walk in today and give them my notice. But maybe it
no,
was.
no, it wasn't at all. I had been at my job for 23 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And I had been there through, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 uh executive or chief creative officer
Oh
iteration.
wow.
And every time there's a new chief creative officer, it's a new agency, right? So I had
Right.
seen I had seen a lot of seasons of different clients, seasons of different people. Every time you bring a new mix of people in, it's a new place. And that was a great perspective. And it was, and I got a lot from that role, and I loved the creatives I worked with, and I loved the producers and account people. And, there were a lot of clients that were a lot of fun to work on. But 23 years, I guess I had first, there was like this, well, I guess the COVID-19 was a big perspective setter, and working through that. And also, seasons of life where parents die and different big life things happening.
Yeah.
Those contribute to an overall perspective change. So I would say that, my perspective was shifting in many ways. And then there came a point where I decided that to be coherent with my own integrity to myself. It was time to see what else might be possible.
Okay. That makes
So
sense.
that's kind of, so it was kind of a long time thinking about it and coming to that decision. It wasn't easy. And I feel like I left on really good terms
Yeah.
with the people that I left behind, and I'm still in touch with many of them. But I wanted to see what else was possible. You know, back in 2017, something really captured my attention, and that was when um, AlphaGo beat the world champion Go player. And I started to really look at artificial intelligence and get this wow feeling like this is going to change everything. And I
Yeah.
was like talking about it with anyone who would listen to me. And it wasn't it wasn't the moment that it's having now.
Right.
But if you dig into some of the history of AI, a lot of people will say that in 2017, that's when the transformer models really started to change things. And so that sort of was another thing that I was very curious to learn about and to have the time to put into. And then also my brother got sick right around the time when I was resigning. And
Oh,
that really sort of, that very much was a conversion for me to feel like I need time and
yeah.
headspace so that I can really be with the people who matter a lot to me and not be distracted by work things.
Yeah.
So I was able to spend 3 months, really with my brother and my mom and help them through a very serious illness.
Wow. Yeah. My brother, he took off some time from his job and now he started back at another company now, but he's an architect and he's doing what he is calling his "you only live once or you're not going to live forever" tour. So he was like, everything I want to do, I'm just starting to do it. I'm like, screw it. It cost me a little bit of money. I'm going to go ahead and do it because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm going to go ahead and take the chance and go for it. And he stays on me about it all the time. It was like, you got to do it. Go ahead, go do it. And I'm like, all right, I'll go do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you really like I guess that was a very like a broad way of saying there were a lot of big life things that just made me feel like, and I'm about to be an empty nester.
Yeah.
My youngest son is going off to college next month.
Where's he
So
going?
he's going to University of Illinois.
All right.
Yep.
That's good. How
So,
far away is that from your house?
oh gosh, like 3 hours,
Okay. Yeah, that's like
you
my
know?
youngest. She's about 2.5 hours away. My
Yep.
oldest went 45 minutes away.
Okay. That's, hey, if that's still far enough that you don't just
Yeah,
pop in and they don't just
exactly.
sit on you. So it was just a kind of a season, I suppose. And so yeah, I'm digging really deeply into learning about artificial intelligence
Where do you
from,
see
oh
that going? Like in this for
my
this
goodness.
business, for this industry between advertising and on my end, photography and
Yes.
videography, where do you see AI? Where do you see everybody kind of being in your head and your vision, like say 10 years from now? Is there
Oh,
still going to be photographers? There's still going to be videographers. There's still going to be, I mean, copywriters.
I think, oh my gosh, Mark, that's such a big question
Yeah,
because our business is such a small piece of the mix,
right.
of the capabilities of this. And, when you think about our business, the message is the medium, and the
Mhm.
mediums are fundamentally changing. So it's difficult to look at our business as a silo when you consider the broader perspective. I do want to say I am neither an evangelist or a doomer.
Right.
You know, I'm neither of those things. I'm just trying to see what it all is. And I do think that one of the big threats is the whole deep fake world.
Yeah,
And
that's a little scary.
that's a lot scary. And I think that people really, really care about what's real and what's authentic. And because of that, I think that photography as a true witness to what happens is not going away. In fact, I think that it's going to be more important than ever. And there are organizations. There's an organization called the Content Authenticity Initiative, and they are creating a lot of ways to ensure that we know whether we're looking at a synthetic image or a true photograph of a true witnessing of an event.
Right.
And I think that there's going to be a lot of legislation and a lot of I think that consumers in the advertising space, consumers care. They want to know that they're not being tricked.
Right.
I think that, there's this whole climate, right? There's the SAG strike that's going
Yeah.
on. And there's been talk about, can you take an image of a SAG actor and digitize it in an AI way,
Mm-hmm.
and then use them in perpetuity as background actors, but only pay them once.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to have
$150.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people aren't going to have that. I like to think people aren't going to have that because I don't think that is humane.
Yeah.
Um, the SEC is looking hard at it from like a unfair competition and regulatory perspective. The FTC is looking hard at it from a data privacy perspective. The Copyright Office still hasn't decided. There's actually a kind of an important webinar today. I'm going to attend it after I get off with you. And it is, looking at the global space of generative AI, as well as the training, and trying to take a pulse and see where people are on that. And I think that's going to be really interesting.
Oh, I think so. I heard that I saw DeSantis is already using it. Used it with Trump. So he took Trump, evidently had four squares, and there were four pictures of Trump and Fauci. Two of them were real, and the other two were AI generated of Trump like hugging Fauci or kissing him on the head or something like that. So people have already started using it. I used it. I had a branding shoot for a surfer recently, and I
Okay.
used
I
it
saw that
to,
work.
oh, yeah.
Hmm.
I used it to do a storyboard. So I typed in what I wanted, and then
Yep.
I mean, like one where the surfboard was like coming through an arm, or he had like five arms or something like that. So it was a little,
Yeah.
of course, it's going to get better, but it helped. I was like, here's a storyboard. I went through and it produced images, and I went through and picked the ones that I thought I liked and could maybe go where I wanted to go with them when I did it in person, for real.
Yeah. I think it's interesting for storyboarding for when the artists use it. I have concerns about creatives on the agency side using it too descriptively, because I kind of feel like when it gets to, when we're talking about lensing and lighting and
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of things, that it's good to leave room for the artist to contribute
I agree.
that.
I've had clients even with it before, way years and years ago, would pull swipes, and they're
Yeah.
like, "This is what I want,"
Yeah.
and I would go, "Well, we don't have that location. This model doesn't have that hair. You know,
Right.
it's not going to be possible to get that. We can get something similar to that, but we're not going to get that." I had one client just kept insisting and insisting. I was like, "We can't do it." And finally, his producer, came over and convinced him to back off, and we would get it as close as we could. But I think it was like some tropical thing with some like supermodel with this amazing hair, and we had some local model with not great hair, and we were like at a farm or someplace, and this, so
Right. No,
yeah,
people get very attached to those and then they have to back away. The best creatives I've ever worked with have worked with the most minimal of like a single line drawing
yeah,
and like here is the idea.
right,
And by the idea, the expression of the idea is where the collaboration with the artist is really powerful. But if you come in with too many details, I don't know, I think it harms the output, the final creative product.
yeah. I agree. I'd rather have a outline, like you said, like a little
Mhm.
sketch. Like, here's what we're thinking. We want something with this kind of a feel to it. And then we
Yes.
go in and we start playing and we shoot. But I guess sometimes you don't always have that kind of time.
Right. But
Uh,
I'll tell you on from in the AI world, there are a couple of things that are interesting. Generative fill is in the along with Firefly, which is the Adobe
mhm.
generative model. That that particular tool, if you capture an image and you capture it vertically and you wish that you had a horizontal aspect ratio, it's just going to fill it in for you. And
Yeah,
things like that, I think, are going to be really powerful and helpful tools because I've had shot lists that are, I'm sure you've had them too, where it's like, okay, let's just look at a 12-hour day or a 10-hour day. Let's do the multiplication because the number of shots and iterations you're asking for are just not possible if we're going to
yes,
actually look at them and
yes.
review them together. So to be able to create iterations
Mhm.
after the fact, I think, and that's, it doesn't diminish the the actual photography that just occurred.
Right.
I That's where it's going to be exciting and powerful.
When Adobe came out with the content aware tool, the very
Mm.
first time they came out with it, I had a shoot, and we'd been shooting horizontal. And the client came back to me later and was like, we've changed our layout and we really would like to take this shot, but we need it vertical. Is there any way we can do that? So I went in, and between myself and my retoucher, we took it and the shot had been cut here, but they
Mm,
wanted all these buildings up behind it because they wanted to be able to put the logo in above it. So we went in and built the whole buildings based on what we had off the sides. We're able to take it in and build it all the way up, and it looked real. And that
yeah,
was forever ago with us doing it, forever. But it still took probably half the time it would have taken any other way with the
right.
content aware. But now with AI, yeah, I'm sure that would be like, here we go,
Seconds.
done.
It takes seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever people think of it, I do think that they should be playing with it,
Mm-hmm.
because even if you really dislike it and find that it doesn't do what you want it to do, at least then you have an informed perspective and you've tried it, you've talked to the machine.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
I think it's like I have some photographer friends who always are against whatever's new. Like when digital came out, didn't want to go digital, thought it
right,
was not good, whatever.
right,
And they get left because people are going to digital. It's the same thing with AI. I have a friend who hates AI. He thinks it's taking away all the creativity, everything from the photographer. It's going to destroy everything. But I think and I'm afraid that if he doesn't learn to work with it somehow, he's going to get left behind.
at least know what it does so that
Yeah.
if you don't want to do it, you figure out how to do it better.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. The end result is what matters. People are going, it probably will, we know it will affect it, the kind of timelines that we have, the kind of output expectations and budgets. But however you get to that end result, just understand what you're competing with.
Yeah. Well, I think with that new Barbie movie, they said the director, she built all those sets. None of that was CGI'd.
Right.
And it looks amazing. Just I haven't seen the movie, but from what I've seen from the previews, it looks amazing. And they said she did it for less than it would have been if they had CGI'd the whole thing, which I have a hard time believing that because it would think a big blue screen and drop it in later would be cheaper, but maybe not because they said, and they showed some behind the scenes stuff like them in a car, and they have the road moving, somebody's sitting there moving it back and forth on a rail, and they said she did basically all like you would have done it in the 50s or 60s, and it looked great. And they said it looked better than CGI, or as good as CGI would have looked, and it was for less money. So I think you're right. If you know what it can do and you play with it, then at least you have those options. You go, well, maybe I can do it over here the way I want to do it, and we can do it cheaper and it'll look as good or better. Or you know what, maybe we need to do the AI over
Right.
here.
I mean, an artist has a vision, and how they get to their vision is very individual. And it really, I don't ever think it's good to tell somebody how to make their vision come to fruition.
Right.
It's here are your parameters. You have this much time, you have this much money. Make it happen the way you make it happen. And if it's a hybrid approach with AI in the future, because right now, I think I have been talking to a lot of people, and it seems that smaller, more independent agencies are doing a lot of experimenting. Big publicly held agencies with holding companies are taking a much more cautious approach,
Right.
as they need to, because of that climate that we discussed. There's so much litigation, the
Oh
input
yeah.
problem with the data sets, the output problem with the Copyright Office.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. So, people are, but I think that you have to know about it, you have to understand it,
Yeah,
and you have to play with it.
I agree. I agree completely. Are you so you're freelancing? Are you freelancing for agencies, or are you freelancing like on the photographer end or the videographer end? Are you freelancing as a producer on that end, or just on the agency end, or both?
Thus far, I've been freelancing on the agency end.
Okay.
I think that's, where a lot of my just a lot of my contact
Yeah.
ecosystem is. I am developing a class that I
Really?
am planning to do for photographers, something that's been a long time coming for me also. I do a lot of, over the years, I've done a lot of talks and workshops and different things, and I sort of putting it together into more of a formal class, and I'm going to see how it goes.
What are you gonna teach the photographers?
Well, it'll be on Zoom. It'll be 4 weeks. It would be once a week, for a couple of hours. I'm going to keep it small, and then I'm going to do one-on-ones with each photographer each week.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's part like, what are your individual goals as a small cohort? Certainly, there's going to be a module on artificial intelligence. There's going to be one on treatments. There's going to be one on creative calls and analyzing shot lists and the various ways they come to people. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes shot lists are created by account people, and they're not with a visual person in mind. And sometimes they are nothing but pictures,
Right.
and you have to like put together the matrix, and it's knowing how to pivot between those things. So those are the kinds of topics that I'll be talking about and working with people. And I'm going to keep it at 6 people.
That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, let me know when you do
Okay.
that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm interested in that. Because I
Okay.
mean, that's all the stuff that I think, unless you have a rep who's been doing it for a while and is very involved with you, that's stuff you're trying to learn on the fly as you're going along. And it can be difficult. Sometimes you figure it out afterwards, like, oh, well, I should have said this or done that instead. And you
It's
didn't know it ahead of time.
it's hard because it's it's like surfing,
Yeah.
right? You know about that. It's like surfing. It's always different. And it makes me sad when I see when I see a treatment or a where I see that somebody is the the front runner going in,
Right.
and then either the call or the treatment or both, and they lose it in those things. And so I really want to give photographers some tools and confidence in that space.
I think it's great. I have a friend who is an amazing photographer, but I think if you put him on a creative call, he's probably going to blow it. He would do great on set. He would shoot it amazingly, but he's not the greatest at interacting with people. And I think, and he kind of has his head is kind of, what's going on in his brain. Sometimes he can't get it all out, but he could shoot it. And I
You
think he
know,
kind of screws him up if he has creative calls.
that's the case for a lot of people. And I don't think that that has to be a barrier to success. I think that people have to work with where they are and understand without judging themselves what their challenges are in those sorts of spaces, and learn how to work with it,
Right.
not against it.
Yeah.
And because I mean, there are plenty of photographers who win the jobs who are not very good at calls, but they have strategies and skills for dealing with the calls that
That's
help them to be
important.
successful in that space.
Yeah.
Same with treatments.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that for sure. What do you think about getting the attention of producers and creative directors? Do you think mailers are even a thing anymore
Um, well, yeah,
since COVID?
it's so funny. So, I've been doing this now almost, 20 some years,
Yeah.
right? And from the beginning, that was always a question,
Was it really?
always a
Well, I guess
question.
so, because a friend of mine told me he went to a photography class. I mean, this was like 2017, and he said he had a bag of promos, dumped
Yeah.
them on the floor to show the photography students. And he said he was trying to show them that you're going to have to really stand out, but instead they all just freaked out, jumped up, and started looking through them. He said they didn't get the message at all.
Yeah. Right. Oh my gosh. It, it I was almost a hoarder with the beautiful printed. I mean, because it's like, I at the beginning of my career, I had an office. We
Yeah.
all, I had an office for many years, and then we moved buildings, and then it became cafeteria style.
Oh,
But at
wow.
least there you had your regular seat, right?
Yes.
So then we'd keep them still. But then it was, nope, we're going paperless, and you show up and you sit wherever. And I think that that's where a lot of places are.
Yeah.
um and so there are producers who love printed pieces, and there are creatives who love printed pieces, and then there are people who they just throw them away. They are very minimal. They prefer not. So I would say that as an artist, if you love something that you have done and you feel it needs to be printed to be best appreciated, and it is not going to break your budget,
Right.
by all means, there will be some people who appreciate it, and there will be some people who throw them away.
Do you think, I
Or
mean, do people still get them? I mean, because I know I was talking to a couple of friends of mine who are producers, and they rarely go into the office. Or when they do go into the office, one of them was saying that we're always someplace different. So the mail people never know where to bring anything anyway. So they don't, I'm not even
yeah,
sure if I would get it, is what she told me.
with, especially with big agencies who have holding companies that have consolidated their mail departments to then service all the agencies that are, like housed in a big building.
Right.
That happens in Chicago a lot anyway, and I'm sure in other markets as well. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
But some people do. I would say it's probably not it's not the most financially sound way to spend your marketing dollars.
Yeah. And a friend of mine the reason I asked is a friend of mine the other week was saying, I'm getting ready to do these big 8x10 promos and send them out to everybody in the mail. And I was like, all right, I don't know, man. Good luck.
Yeah.
Maybe they work, maybe they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I would say it's probably not the best use of marketing dollars, but I love a printed piece. I had coffee with a photographer yesterday, and they brought me a printed piece, and I was like, it felt like, I don't know, like a present. Like it
Right.
was awesome. So I love them, but I'm kicking it old school here. So
Well, I noticed that when I go to meet, I was in New York for meetings in January, and it was the first time I didn't bring a book with me. It was because the last time I'd been up there, one or two producers were like, "You have a book?" I was like, "Yeah, I've got a book." And but everybody I went to, I just had an iPad Pro, the bigger iPad. It was showing everything on my iPad. Everybody seemed to be totally cool with it, fine with it, except for one art producer I met with, and I could tell on her face when I handed her the iPad, and she's been doing it for about 30 years, that
okay.
something happened on her face like that. And I knew
Mhm.
immediately she was not happy with the iPad. I should have had a book. And I'd be like, well, here's my book as well, because I could just tell it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can't please all the people all the time. And there's like,
But I like the books too.
yeah, sure.
Uh,
I
but
mean,
they're
books are
heavy.
beautiful. Books are beautiful. When the person who printed them put a lot of care
Right.
into it, and if you have been around long enough to see your work printed on paper beautifully to your
Mhm.
specifications, there's a richness that is lovely. I remember when the iPads first started coming around, and I was like struck because it reminded me of when I first was doing it, and people would bring transparencies, and I'd look at
Oh,
them on a light box.
yes.
And I was like, wow, this really feels old school.
That's amazing. You take the transparencies and you can relate it to the iPad. Well, yeah, I can see how
Yeah.
that for sure.
And that was a very pretty way to see work. So, however you think your work looks best, however you can manage it. What's great about a digital workflow is you can switch it out easily. I mean, I remember people would make books, and then it was such a commitment, and it was a big deal to make changes. And now
Oh,
you can be
yeah.
very fluid with it, or you can customize a PDF for different clients. And um, I think there's something powerful, and I don't know. I think that you have to be in the now as you define the now, as it works best for you. It's people are trying so hard to guess what other people want. And I
Hmm.
think that the artists who really stand out and 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 show themselves the best are the ones who really find their own way and aren't fighting against, oh, I don't like what's going on now. Or it's like, it's not about fighting, it's about flowing.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
It's not about fighting, it's about flowing. Yeah. That's a cool little thing. You should get that printed up.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
it just came to me.
Well, I
It just
like it.
came
I
to
think it's
me.
great.
So.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you long. I thought it would be 30 minutes. We've been 35. I don't want to keep you around. I know you. What time's your AI thing start? Already started?
It starts at 10.
Okay.
At 10 Central Time.
Right. Yeah. All right. So
11
you're about
Eastern
time.
Time. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go so you can get ready for that. And
Thank you so much for chatting. I'm really happy
yeah,
to connect with you.
me too. This is cool. It's nice hearing what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. Keep me updated if you
Yeah.
go anywhere.
Same.
But I'm glad you're getting some time to kind of do your thing now and
Yeah.
not have to work every single day and just kind of do what you want to do and have fun.
Yeah. I'm working every day, but I'm working at the things that I'm working at. And
Right.
that's a kind of a good thing. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.